Hello and welcome to another episode of Top Deck, the series where we take a look at some of the leading TCG deck lists. Now we have had a new ban list come out, and even though it has only just come out, it is probably going to be having a big impact on your meta and what decks are relevant in your area. One deck which did not get hit by this list whatsoever is the thing staring you in the face. This is Salamangreat. This is Stephen Roberts' list where he used it to get a winner box victory pre-ban list. So in a format when Adamantipator was still relevant, where obviously Dragon Link was still a very, very, very important deck, even when Jet Synchron was able to be used in the Eldritch strategies, he was piloting this combo to a first place victory. Let's dive in, we'll do the card by card, we'll get the siding strategy, we'll get the round structure and information, and maybe we'll get some insight as to maybe what could potentially change in this list going down the line with the new ban list in effect and reduced Adamantipator representation. So, triple Parallax Seed, triple Lady Debug, 1 Buffalo, 2 Jaguar, 1 Fowl, 1 Gazelle, 2 Spinny and 2 Foxy. I think this is fairly standard lineup. You've got the usual in terms of starters. The Buffalo is a little bit more unusual, and I think Foxy at 1 is a little bit more usual at the moment as well. Also, no, none of that. What's that link one? Format skipper. There we go. No format skippers to search out your Parallel Exceed. Instead, he is just opting to have it as an option if he does draw it, because there is some extra draw power in this list. Then there's 1 Sanctuary, 1 Circle, 3 Mining, 1 Will, 1 Monster Reborn. Only 1 Raw and 1 Rage. We'll get onto this. It's a little bit more controversial. Then 3 Ash, 3 Veiler, 3 Imper, 3 Desires, 1 Upstart, 1 Triple Tactics Talent, then 1 Gravedigger's Trap Hole, and 1 Treacherous Trap Hole. Okay, so the inclusion of Desires is probably going to be making people a little bit triggered because there's only 1 Raw, 1 Rage. This does, however, in general mean that the combo is slightly more consistent because you're less likely to draw into your traps when you don't want them. You are generally trying to use your hand to set up something like a Wolf Trap rank 4 or whatever the closest you can get to that is. It's normally Wolf Trap, but sometimes you can get to Wolf rank 4 instead. And I think running the 1 and 1 just means you're slightly less likely to brick on them in a sense. Sure, they're not the worst things to draw in your opening hand, but you do have to sort of play through very, very powerful decks at the moment. So it looks like he's opted to run a higher hand trap count here. And then there's so much draw power with 3 Desires, 1 Upstart, and the Triple Tactics Talent. You can still, draw into all your pieces. Now, obviously, you don't want to play your Desires before you start resolving your combo because you don't really want to lose your Gazelle or your Trap. But it shouldn't matter too much given how much advantage you can get out of everything. As for the trap lineups, so Gravediggers is to beat the Nibiru's, and then you've also got Treacherous. I really like Treacherous. For the extra deck, 1 Heatleo, triple Sunlight Wolf, triple Baelynx, 1 Dweller, 1 Rafflesia. As I said, this is the protection to get past Nibiru. Then 1 Access Code, 1 Transcode, 1 Update Jammer, 1 Splash Mage, all the stuff that you need to get to your double attacking 5300 access code for game. Then you've also got a Security Dragon and a Lingeribo, so you can play through the trap decks. And does Security Dragon target? Yeah, it does. Okay, so you wouldn't be able to use this to get rid of Dragoon, which is maybe a little bit of a problem for the deck, which you typically get around with by the fact that access code is enormous. So 53 even beats over a single negate Dragoon, which is really nice. For the side deck, a lot of stuff that applies pressure here, so Pancratops helping you to break the bigger boards, same with the Gamma Engine. Then we've got Triple Cyclone to try and beat the Eldritch lineup. There's not a lot of back row in the format at the moment, you really don't have to pack on very much for it. Better to get rid of the one-offs that are in your way, like the Dragon Buster or the Eldritch Traps. Then 1 Imperial Order can shut down a lot of decks when you know you're going first. Then 2 Ice Dragon's Prison, 2 Gamma Seal, and some more trap holes. We've got a Floodgate trap hole, and then of course there's the 1 Bottomless trap hole. There's the ultimate trap hole card. So a very nice list, gives you a fairly consistent starting, opening, and enough hand traps to combat the meta with 9 You know, it's not the like blown out 16 hand trap type thing that we've seen coming up more. Yeah, lots of great options here from the deck itself. Let's get on to the siding strategy that Stephen used. So, it was a winner box event with 5 rounds of Swiss and 3 rounds of Top Cut. For this, the strategy that he used was based around combo and control decks. So for combo decks, you pretty much always put in the Imperial Order if it's relevant. You're almost always putting in the Ice Dragon's Prisons and the Trap Holes to give your Rafflesia even more value. And then you're taking out the Impermanences and anything that's not relevant. Impermanence generally doesn't get as much value as an Ice Dragon's Prison because it doesn't get rid of a card. It just, like that one negate, can stop your opponent from getting masses of pluses, but sometimes it's just more impactful to banish a card, and you should be fine there. For going second, you obviously do want your hand traps in, so he's bringing in the Gammas and the Driver, not taking out any hand traps, and also sometimes bringing in Gamma Seal and Pankratops if they're relevant, but then taking out the Trap Holes because you probably won't have a Rafflesia established, taking out the Buffalo since the draw power is less relevant, you want a slightly more impactful normal summon there, and then taking out the Triple Tactics Talent. Or the Upstart, that's an interesting one that you take out Upstart, but I suppose it does depend on the game state. If you're getting closer to time, then you really don't want your opponent to be ahead on life points. For the control decks, going first, you put in your Cosmic Cyclones and your Order or Trap Holes if they're relevant, and your Ice Dragon's Prison. I really do think Ice Dragon's Prison is such a must-have for this format going in. Just banishing stuff without having to discard anything seems really, really good right now. Even better than Dinomiscus. And then taking out Imperm, Triple Tactics Talent, and anything that is less relevant. So this would be like the hand traps that are less relevant, basically. And then for going second, you keep the Cosmics again. You get additional pops from your Pankratops, and if it is one of those control decks that loses to a monster being taken off the field, like Eldritch, if they are just leaving a body and you need to break it, or if you're going up against, say, the mirror match, so against Salamangreat, and you get rid of a monster, then you're fine. Then you can also put in your Gamma Seals here, remove that problem, and put yourself really far ahead. And then, once again, going second, you're taking out the Trap Holes, the Buffalo, and the Triple Tactics Talent, so pretty concise siding strategy for going second. And the rounds, so, as I said, 8 rounds, 5 rounds of Swiss. We've got the full breakdown here from Stephen, so I will be reading through his additional comments as well. So round 1 against Pure Eldritch with Dragoon. Stephen won the die roll and had Ash for the opponent's Red Ice Fusion both games, so he was able to outgrind the Eldritch part of the deck and play around the back row really well. So this is one of those decks where you just play loads of ways into Dragoon, basically. And then against Invoked Dogmatica Dragoon in round 2, lost the dice roll this time, but the opponent only ended on the hand trap and Dragoon, which is pretty easy to beat because you can take control of that with the Triple Tactics Talent and eventually win out from there. Game 2, I think this is, the opponent ended on a Call by the Grave, which would now be limited to 1, so a bit less likely there. And they also ended on a Macabre, but Stephen had the Kaiju for the Macabre, and he was able to Monster Reborn the opponent's Macabre, and then that's game over from there. Monster Reborn, still very impactful even in 2020. Round 3 against Dinosaur. This is the only loss from the event in 0-2 here, winning the die roll, ending on 2 Imperm Raw Wolf, which is pretty good, and Rafflesia. The opponent is able to play through all of it with 2 Fossil Dig, Misk, Pank, Ovi, and Baby. Stephen stops some of the follow-ups with the Miscellaneousaurus, but the opponent eventually draws another Ovi and is able to win from there. Game 2 is very similar, having some traps set with a Wolf and Rafflesia, but can't really do much with the opponent having Misk and Pankratops again, which obviously plays around most of the disruption, so a bit unfortunate for Stephen on this occasion. Then into round 4 of Swiss. Combo Eldritch Dragoon here, losing the die roll but having hand traps to stop the opponent from doing either the Hulk combo or summoning Dragoon. And then in one of the games he got Nibiru'd but was able to follow up next turn anyway and secure the OTK. Because if you do Nibiru someone with your Eldritch Dragoon deck, you're not always going to be in a position to recover from there as quickly as your opponent anyway. So that's what enabled Stephen to get the win in round 4. On to round 5, a 2-1 here against Adamancipator, while it was still a powerhouse of a deck with triple block dragon available. So keep that in mind. This event did have the ability, you could play triple block dragon, so Adamancipator was a real deck for this event. Stephen won the die roll, ended on a couple of things to stop the opponent from going off too much, and was eventually able to kill him in game 1. Game 2, Stephen opened a really terrible hand with Ash, Gamma Driver, and Will, and then just drawing Exceed for turn. So yeah, you can't really stop your opponent doing much because you have no follow-up after you Gamma them. And then in game 3, Stephen got Gammaed on Lady Debug, but he still had some trap holes to prevent the opponent from comboing too much, so he just won in the grind game and had some follow-up link climbing to take him down there. So after 5 rounds of Swiss, he ends 4-1 and moves into top cut. In top 8, he faced against Cyber Dragon, winning the die roll, ending on a few interruptions, enough to stop the opponent from doing very much and OTKing next turn. Game 2, going second into an Inspector border was pretty difficult with a set Cosmic and Call By. Basically lost that after the opponent Cosmic the Imperm. Bit weird, but yeah, that does happen. And then banished most of the outs off Desires. But game 3 was very similar to game 1, so Stephen secured the win there. 7th round of play, so top 4 against Invoked Dogmatica Dragoon, losing the die roll, having no hand traps to stop the opponent's play, but having a very good hand of extenders to play through the interruptions. That's one of the great things about the deck. You either open your hand traps or your engine. So he was able to play through all the interrupts, outgrind the opponent, and then in game 2 he had Imperm and another hand trap, so was eventually able to kill the opponent after making them pay some life points. And then in round 8, the final against Adamancipator. This is a 2-0 here, so winning the die roll, opening quite well. The opponent opened Impermed the Debug, but still Stephen was able to end on a Relinked Wolf and Rage and Treacherous sets. He then opened Gamma, Ash, Imperm, Pancratops, and Jaguar in game 2. Absolutely everything that you need there, which was enough to stun the opponent and eventually win the game, recurring the Ash and link climbing to just put yourself in an amazing spot there. So yeah, Salamangreat can do some pretty crazy stuff, even in that previous format, and now it's just going to get even better because the big rival that will be coming up for it is BA. But you'd think, given how strong Salamangreat has been in the previous format, that it could do really well again here. So obviously it's built for going first. When you blind first, you typically end on a rank 4 or an extra body on board on top of your Sunlight Wolf with traps and or hand traps. The deck's win condition is pretty much control and outgrind your opponent with the traps and the hand traps, or easy access into the access code talker with the update jammer for the quick OTK. The hardest matchup is generally other control decks such as Invoked or Altergeist, especially if you lose the die roll, because they just have enough resources that don't get impacted by your disrupts. In terms of the matchups which are free, he says combo decks like Eldritch and Adamancipator, which are pretty free because they can't play through your hand traps, and the Eldritch part of the combo gets helped a lot by the inclusion of cards like Lingarebo and YuGiOh and Rage. As for changes, probably for a future event, he doesn't think this is totally the optimal build. There are a few options past the standard 20 or 30 cards that pretty much everyone runs in their build. Buffalo, he says, was a pretty nice one. It came up a few times. It can be searched off Sign Up Mining, and Triple Tactics Talent was just a replacement for Mind Control, as he thought it would generally be better. Even though it is, it's the one copy, but it gives you slightly more interaction there. The trap holes in the side deck didn't really come up much, other than the odd occasion when he'd be hard drawing them going first, so they could probably be cut for the third Ice Dragon's Prison and something else. Would he play it again in the future? Definitely. He's always enjoying playing Salamangreat, and he's done really well with it since release, as we've seen on the channel a few times. It's very consistent and it gets the job done. Shoutouts go to Ninja Cards, as always, where he's able to get his cards from. These are the guys on Cardmarket. You can head into the description, check out the link, and jump straight onto Cardmarket there. To his friends Luke and Jara, who went with him, and James, who he unfortunately had to face during the event and beat. Also shoutouts to Connor, Owen, Callum, Harlequins, Lazy Dragon Gaming for hosting the tournament, and also shoutouts to us again for having him on for the channel despite bringing back the Salamangreat opportunity. I'm sure you've seen already a couple of pictures of Stephen and the top cut players from this event. Congratulations to all of you guys. What do you think about this list? Let me know in the comment section. and hopefully we'll be bringing you guys, once the locals return to the scene, or maybe some online events, we'll be bringing you another top deck from Stephen, piloting the Salamangreat list with an updated September and post-September 2020 build.